Hey guys, how you doing? This is JP Saricolia coming to you once again with another episode of Age of Heroes. And being the 4th of July, Independence Day here in the US, I want to have fun with this podcast today. And today I want to share a list that I created of all the movies that I consider great movies. Actually 20 movies, which is a long list. It's a long list, but we're going to go really fast on them. But these are great movies that you should watch on the 4th of July during the holiday, because they are great movies that celebrate America, American traditions, American values, Americana. So in the next couple of minutes, we're going to explore that, and we're going to go on based on the year of release. So we're going to start with the oldest first, and then of course we're going to end with the newest film. The first film on this list is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It was filmed back in 1939, a political comedy drama directed by the great Frank Capra. It started by Jen Stewart from It's a Wonderful Life, one of the greatest actors of all time, Jean Arthur, Claude Rains, Edward Arnold, among many great actors and actresses, legends of Hollywood. Considered one of the greatest films of all time, one that definitely presents the case of a young senator that goes to Washington, and he is pretty much surrounded by a big corruption, and he is a victim of it, and he wants to do the right thing. One of the greatest films, it's one that any American citizen should watch. It is as prevalent as it was many years ago. It is still prevalent today. And definitely something that can be applied to today political stances or political situations that we are dealing as citizens of this country in their system that we are part of, and definitely still prevalent today. And it's one of the greatest films. Definitely also celebrates America and the real spirit of Americans, the people that really are part of this country, the heart and pretty much the muscle of the country. So definitely a great film that you should watch. The second film on this list is a 1975 Jaws. The first Jaws is a fantastic film. It's a thriller film directed by Steven Spielberg, a true classic, modern classic. This film, it is based on a book of 1974 novel of the same name, but it's just a fantastic. You can say that it's a bit of a horror with the whole thing with the in this case the shark, but it's just a fantastic film, very entertaining. Everything happens around the 4th of July, so it's definitely something that is a great film. Definitely one that you should watch with your family. I really love it. It's one of the greatest and definitely deserves to be on this list. Number 3, Superman 1 and Superman 2. The first one was released in 1978, the second one in 1980. Superhero films, so what many consider pretty much the foundation of all the modern superhero films, and for good reason. Directed by Richard Donner, he filmed the first two, actually the two films, but Richard Lester that did the second one, he finished the second one. Christopher Reeve, to me, the classic Superman. No one will ever replace him as a Superman. Marlon Brando, of course, Gene Hackman, Margot Kidder, Terrence Stamp. Of course, you have two different versions. You got the theatrical versions for 1 and 2, and the second one you also had the Richard Donner cut. Those are classic. When you think about a superhero that is more heroic and more patriotic, you can think about Captain America, but you also have to think about Superman. And definitely those films are great films. Of course, they haven't, they're not as good as, it's been so many years, and the quality of the special effects is not the greatest in comparison to newer films. But still, those two films are great classics and definitely the foundation for all superhero films. Number 4, Red Dawn was released in 1984. It's a war film directed by John Milius, started by Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen, Thomas Howell, Leah Thompson, Jennifer Grey. This was the first film released in America that was actually labeled a PG-13 film, which it was back in the day it was a tough thing. But this is a story with Russia back then, now the Soviets, allied with Cuba and Nicaragua. They're allies in the pretty much in Central America and the Caribbean. They invaded a small town in Colorado. So the story is this young teenagers trying to survive and also trying to liberate America. So it's a fictional world. Many people consider it is too pro-war in that sense, pro-America. It really played with the fears of America back in those years, almost at the end of the Cold War. So it is definitely one of them. It still is an entertaining film. This was the movie was redone. There was a redone again years later. But that reboot or whatever you want to call it, it is not a great film in comparison to the original. The original, yes, he has a lot of cheesecake on it. But when you come to think of it, it's a great film. It was a great film, great acting, young actors, and definitely is very cool. A great film for the holiday. Number 5, Rocky 4. Well, you can consider Rocky, all the Rocky films, as very American, celebrating Americana. But Rocky 4 is definitely the most American or the most patriotic of all the films. This was released in 1985. It's a sports drama written and directed and started by Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa, the Italian stallion. There's no way to introduce this film. All these films are classic. You also have, remember Dolph Lundgren as Ivan Drago, Carl Weathers as Apollo Creed. He dies in this film. Their character, of course, Burt Young, Talia Shire, Bridget Nielsen. It is a classic. It's a lot of cheesecake in this film. But when you think about films that are patriotic and the image of patriotism, of course, you always have to think about Rocky, particularly this film. So definitely is one that should be watched on the 4th of July. Number 6, Glory, the 1989 historical film that pretty much celebrates the 54 Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, the Union's second African American regiment during the Civil War. It's a fantastic film directed by Edward Zwick. It started by Matthew Broderick. I consider probably his best movie of all times. Denzel Washington there won his first Oscar in this film as a supporting actor. And you also have Morgan Freeman. Definitely a fantastic film. It was filmed primarily in Massachusetts, but also in Georgia, in Savannah, Georgia. There are some places that it was filmed in other parts of the state of Georgia. A fantastic historical recount of one of the greatest, I would say, pages or episodes of the Civil War. There's, of course, some people would say that there's some historical inaccuracies on that. Like most films like this, they're not completely historically accurate. But it's a fantastic film and definitely presents, of course, African Americans fighting for their own freedom and for their own rights. It's more about not just about fighting for political stances. They're fighting for themselves and for the families that are left behind. Many of them is still in the South. So definitely it's a fantastic movie that celebrates another aspect of the patriotism, which is the patriotism is more about just defending a country. It's also about defending our own rights and protecting ourselves. So I feel that it's a fantastic movie that it should be watched also on the 4th of July. Number 7, Born on the 4th of July. This film was released in 1989. It's a biographical war drama directed and co-written by Oliver Stone. Many consider one of his greatest films, perhaps the greatest, based on the 1976 autobiography of Ron Kovac. It is the second installment in Stone Vietnam War movie trilogy. It was before this is a 1986 Platoon, and then of course 1993 Heaven and Earth. It is Tom Cruise, Kyra Sedgwick, Willem Dafoe, and this film won the Best Director and Best Film Editing, but lost Best Picture and Best Actor. And to be honest with you, Tom Cruise deserved to win. They deserved to win that Oscar. This film, to me, I remember I was a teenager when I watched it for the first time, really made me see Tom Cruise is a great actor. He has the capacity. That's one of those films when I was a teenager that really moved me. It's a man that goes to war and he comes back from war and, pretty much half a man in the sense physically. He's a veteran. He's dealing with his own guilt and his own pressures and coming to the realization that not everything he bought, everything he thought was right, that the reasons why he went to war, now he comes to war, the realization that they don't match. A lot of times, it's a very doubtful film. A lot of people criticize because of that, and a lot of people consider it an anti-war film. And in many ways it is, but definitely it's a great film to watch because it also makes you think about, the sacrifices and what really means to be patriotic, what really means to be a patriot. And that sometimes we believe one thing and it's not what has been told to us, and it's all about confronting your reality with your beliefs. And this is a great movie because of that, and definitely presents that. And most importantly, one of the aspects that I really like about the movie is it presents the reality of veterans, even unto this day, that even though we praise them with our lips, sometimes our actions are contrary to that. We don't honor them and we don't offer them sometimes the help that they really need after the suffering they go through on a daily basis. So definitely it's a fantastic film because of that. Now follow this on the list. I would say The Rocketeer, the 1991 Rocketeer. This is a period superhero film from Disney based on Dave Stevens' comic book character, one of the greatest comic books, I would say, of all time. The film was directed by Joe Johnson. It started by Bill Campbell, Alan Arkin, Jennifer Connelly. She looked pretty there. Paul Sorvino and Timothy Dalton. Fantastic film. It's always been under the radar, but it's a cult classic. And definitely it's a fantastic film. Has the adventure aspect. It really celebrates Americana. It has the American spirit in it, and it's one movie that I highly recommend as well. Number 9, the 1993 The Sandlot, a coming-of-age sports comedy. This was co-written, directed, and narrated by David Mickey Evans. Tom Wyrie, Mike Vitar, Karen Allen, Dennis O'Leary, James Earl Jones. This is definitely a great classic, a cult classic. It talks about the story of this kid in 1962 who moves to California and definitely try to really accommodate. And it's through this place where he plays with the other kids and they play baseball. What can be more American than baseball? And they go to this summer and the adventures they go through. There's so many different plots in this film, but it is a fantastic film because it celebrates America and the spirit of America and the youth of America. And growing up in America. It's something that really, it's a fantastic film. I love it. It's one of those great films that you can watch with your kids, and it's a coming of age film that definitely every kid that is turning into a teenager should watch at some point. It's definitely a fantastic film. Number 10, Forrest Gump. And, this was released in 1994. It's a comedy drama directed by Robert Zemeckis, based on the 1986 novel of the same name, although it differs substantially from the book. Started by Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, and Gary Sinise, among great cast. This was filmed primarily in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, but also in California and Maine, Utah, Arizona, and Montana. So it was all over the place in the U.S., but primarily was filmed here in the South. And actually where I live, it's really close to many of these places. You can still go. There's tours to all of these places. I've been through many of those places while the film was shot, and definitely it's one of the greatest things. It is a fantastic film. It really celebrates America, from the spirit of America, of most Americans, how it's really it's a trip of the history of America of modern times. And definitely it's a fantastic film. Tom Hanks in this film is masterful. And it's one of the greatest films, in my opinion, one of his greatest films, besides Philadelphia and many other films that he has done. I think it's one of the greatest. And definitely this is the one to me that really make him a great actor, in my view, the greatest. And definitely it's a fantastic film that anyone should watch. Now, this is followed by Apollo 13, which was released in 1995, docudrama film based on the aborted 1970 lunar mission, the Apollo 13, directed by Ron Howard, and also starred again by Tom Hanks, one of his greatest movies as well, with Kevin Bacon, Bill Paxton, Gary Sinise, and Ed Harris. These actors here have acted in some of the other movies on this list. Fantastic film. This would happen in the 1970, the rescue mission, or how to rescue them, and everything that goes through. It's a fantastic shot film with great characters, Tom Hanks and the relationship with his wife and their wife on Earth, waiting on the husband. All of that really plays so well in this film, and it really celebrates what it is in reality, the power of America, which is the people behind the organizations, behind the system, the people that are making the decisions on a daily basis, and the people that are they're unsung heroes of everyday life, the people that are doing their best and doing their job and trying to save the lives of others. It's a fantastic film that should be watched. It's very patriotic because of that. It's a great addition to this list. Now, the following year, there was another great film, and this is Independence Day, 1996, a science fiction and action film. Many consider one of the greatest, if not perhaps the greatest, I would say popcorn film of the 4th of July, directed and co-written by Roland Emmerich. It starred Will Smith, Bill Pullman, Jeff Goldblum, Vivica Fox. A fantastic film. I remember it. I remember just how great that film was in the sense of the popcorn and I remember just watching the scenery. You go into the movie theater and watching everything for the first time. The shots, the technology that was used then, it was innovative for the time, and definitely was a fantastic film, and still is one that definitely you should watch on the 4th of July. Number 13, Air Force One, the 1997 political action thriller. Directed by Wolfgang Petersen, starred Harrison Ford, Gary Oldman, Wendy Crewson, Paula Guilfoyle, William Macy, Dean Stockwell, and Glenn Close. Though this is a great cast, and this is one of the greatest films I would say. From Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford has made so many great movies. He's such a great actor, and many of the vein of the man fighting against the system, fighting against all odds, is something that he did so well in Air Force One, like in Patriot Games. But I think Air Force One is very, very patriotic because he's the president of the U.S. and definitely the most remembered president on film. Really cool film. He's fighting for his life and protect the people in the plane. Definitely it's a great film, and has all the action, that 90s action vibe that definitely we loved back then and we still love. Definitely there's a lot of cheesecake on that now, but definitely a great film. Number 14, 1998, Saving Private Ryan, which is considered one of the greatest epic war films of all time. For many, the one that really cemented this type of documentaries, more modern documentaries. And it is a fantastic film. Also directed by Steven Spielberg. It started Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is in this list a lot. Tom Sizemore, Vin Diesel, Adam Goldberg, Matt Damon. It is particularly the initial shots, the initial part of the film, the 27 minutes of the Omaha Beach landing at Normandy. It's one of the greatest, I would say, of all time. I don't think any other war film has been able to show something so impactful as that. It was nominated for 11 Academy Awards, won 5, took Best Director, but lost Best Picture against Shakespeare in Love, which to me was a big bummer because I consider Saving Private Ryan a much better film. But, it is what it is. But definitely it's a fantastic film. Some people that have pointed out some of the inaccuracies, the science in it, but other people that were there, veterans that were at that beach at that day, they really support this film because they remember it, to the point that even a lot of people that were in their film that haven't been able to finish watching it, and they even walked out of the movie theater because it's so it's so visceral, visually, really showcase war at how it is, how ugly it is. But this is a great story, is because it's this group of people going to save a life, to save another person's life. And definitely that's makes a movie so impactful and one of the greatest. Number 15, The Patriot. This movie came out in 2000. It's an epic historical fiction war film directed by Roland Emmerich. Started with Mel Gibson, Chris Cooper, Heath Ledger, Jason Isaacs. It has a great cast. It was filmed mainly here in South Carolina in Berkeley County. Some people have pointed out there's a lot of historical inaccuracies. Of course, it's a fictional story around, in this case, real events. But it's a fantastic film. I've always enjoyed so much. I love Mel Gibson. I love it from, his movies in Braveheart, and I consider Braveheart and this, his second movie, the greatest movies, and it's a fantastic film. Definitely, it has so many great shots, some of the greatest shots, I would say, in cinematography. And it's beautiful, everything, from the way everything people are dressed up, from the locations, all of that is it's a beautiful film. Number 16, the 2004 Miracle. This is a sports documentary drama about the U.S. men ice hockey team who won the gold medal at the 1980s Winter Olympics against the highly favored Soviets. Directed by Gavin O'Connor, starred by Kurt Russell, Patricia Clarkson, Noah Emmerich. It is a great film. It is one of those sports films that we all love here in America. We love the sports dreams, particularly with the underdogs win. And this is one of those films, but it's based on real life. And definitely showcase the story, what they have to deal with, what they have to go through, and how they overcame, in this case, their own fear and their own doubts. And definitely it's a fantastic film, definitely one that is also recommended for the 4th of July. Now, if you're looking for something a bit more disrespectful and a little bit more on the edge, look no further than Team America World Police. This movie came out in 2004. It's a comedy film, political satire, written and directed by the creators of South Park. The actors, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, Kristen Miller, they did the voice acting. You see the marionettes are used like in the British Thunderbirds TV show. The film is a parody of American policies in and around the world. It's definitely like that, but it's so fun. It's so quirky. It has that pretty much the comedy of South Park without going I would say, without going into that raunchiness that the South Park has. But yeah, it is on the extreme. There's all kind of, I don't recommend this for kids. This is definitely more if you are more on the edge and you want something more doll oriented, but it still is a great film. All the different dolls kind of, it is funny, and it has a lot of fun, and it's very pretty much on the edge and the political stance, pretty much a well controlled. Not only it makes fun of political stances, and it makes fun of a lot of people, a lot of the policies that we have, but also about Hollywood and a lot of the actors and actresses and all that. It's a satire that definitely should be watched, and definitely it's enjoyable. Number 18, the 2004 National Treasure. I can consider National Treasure 2 also. I can add it to this list. But the first one I think is the better one. And it's an adventure film. It was created by Disney, directed by John Turteltaub. Starred Nicolas Cage, Harvey Keitel, Jon Voight, Diane Kruger, Justin Bartha, Sean Bean, and Christopher Plummer. Fun film, really an adventure around the Declaration of Independence, Freemasons, and all of that. Is a fantastic film on the same vein of Indiana Jones. Has a lot of adventure, a lot of traveling, and definitely involves all of this history of America. Definitely a fantastic film. It is good for the family as well. It's one that you can enjoy with your kids. So Team America is more for the adults, but I think National Treasure is a fantastic film for the family. Number 19, now you want more action? Then Live Free or Die Hard, the 2007 film, action thriller film directed by Len Wiseman, started by Bruce Willis, who plays the role again of John McClane, Justin Long, Timothy Olyphant, Cliff Curtis, and Maggie Q. A fantastic film, even though this is from all in this case, the Die Hard films. This is the PG-13, while the other ones were I would say R-rated, because there's a lot of cussing, a lot of that. This film kind of stepped back a little bit. It was PG-13. Everything is happening around the 4th of July. I think they wanted to push that. Still, just because they control some of that doesn't mean that the film is bad. It's actually a very enjoyable film. It has all the action, all the with Bruce Willis. It's definitely enjoyable. It's not a film that is going to win awards, but it's a film that is very enjoyable. If you're looking for action, more mindless action, then definitely this is the movie for you, and one that is recommended, even with the PG-13 rating. There's another R-rated, unrated version there. You can watch that as well. So definitely you have options with this film. And number 20, the last on this list, Captain America: The First Avenger, the 2011 film, which to me is a classic superhero film, directed by Joe Johnston, the second film he directs on this list. Started by Chris Evans, Tommy Lee Jones, Haley Atwell, Hugo Weaving, Sebastian Stan, and Stanley Tucci. I love Stanley Tucci on this film, particularly on his speech to Captain America. I love it, Steve Rogers, before he became Captain America. This is a fantastic film. Definitely Captain America's it's by all accounts one of the greatest superheroes or patriotic superheroes in American history. And definitely this film really portrays that. Any Captain America film is very patriotic. Even The Winter Soldier and then Civil War, they also have patriotic elements. But if you want to go to the most patriotic of all, then The First Avenger is the one. And definitely a film that is enjoyable with the family. So this is my list. Of course, 20 films. There's something for everyone. If you want something more into the action, something more on the edge, something more on the political satire, something in the sports drama, you have it all in this list. And definitely there's a lot of great movies, and definitely there's many more that I could add to this list, but that I leave it to you to make that choice. But what do you think? If you are watching this in YouTube, what do you think about this list? Do you agree or you don't agree? If you agree with this list, just let me know in the comments below. If you have any other one that you disagree with me, then just point it out. Tell me why you disagree this movie shouldn't be on this list. Or if you have any other movies that you would like to add, just let me know. I would like to hear it. Now, if you're listening this to the podcast, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Castbox, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, then you can just you can share that, or you can talk to me through. You can go to YouTube, of course. You can share your thoughts on my Facebook page or also on Twitter. I have all the links down below. So once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for listening. If you're listening to the podcast, God bless you and have a happy 4th of July. So talk to you again. Bye-bye.